All right, so have you ever run into something like really out there, something so complex it makes you kind of question everything you thought you knew?
I think we all have those moments that make us really ponder.
Well, buckle up, because today we are diving into some serious linguistic weirdness with, get this, Ithkuil.
Ah, yes, Ithkuil. The language that can make even someone who loves language, like, totally freak out a little.
Yeah, and speaking of freaking out, you sent over some wild research on this. It's like the guy who made it, John Quijada, just looked at everything we thought we knew about language and was like, nope, I'm tossing all that out.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. John Quijada, though, is an interesting figure in his own right. I mean, this is a guy who has loved language his whole life, and he's been shaping and reshaping Ithkuil for over 40 years.
And the thing is, he wasn't even going for something, easy to learn. Like, he wasn't making Esperanto 2.0. This guy, he was going for something way bigger. He wanted to create a language that could actually perfectly describe even the tiniest thought.
Exactly. And to get that, he pulled inspiration from, well, everything. Like, he got ideas from the way verbs work in Abkhaz. He used the way moods are shown in Native American languages, you name it. It's like he took all the most interesting parts of language and just, like, cranked them way up.
Which brings us to the part that's, I don't know, both kind of terrifying and also really exciting. Okay, so Ithkuil has 96 cases. 96. I mean, most languages get by with like 5, maybe 10 at most.
It's a testament to just how ambitious he was with this project.
Totally. It's like he looked at the idea of a very precise language and decided to go completely nuts with it. Even the most complex languages we know seem kind of basic compared to this.
And this is where things get really interesting, especially for people who are really into languages. So you know how we think of nouns and verbs, right?
Yeah.
Ithkuil doesn't even use them the way we do. Instead, it uses things called formatives, which are kind of like, I don't know, like the building blocks of meaning, like linguistic Legos.
Yeah.
And you can combine them in tons of different ways to express really specific ideas.
So instead of saying, like, I walked to the store, in Ithkuil you could say, like, exactly how you walked, why you were going to the store, maybe even what was going through your head on the way there, all in just one word.
You're getting it. And that, being able to pack so much into one word, is what makes Ithkuil so interesting. But to be honest, it's also what makes it basically impossible for people to actually learn.
Which honestly just makes me want to understand it more.
It's a common reaction. I think to really get how amazing this language is, we need to go back to the beginning and look at how Ithkuil developed over time.
Okay, so this whole Ithkuil thing, it's been in the works for decades. Where did it even start?
All right, so picture this. It's the early 2000s, and the first version of Ithkuil comes out. And get this version was even more complex than what we have now.
Wait, you're telling me there's something that makes 96 cases look easy? I'm kind of scared to ask, but like, what made it so crazy complicated?
So imagine a language where even just the sounds, the basics of speaking, are already super overwhelming. This early version of Ithkuil had a ton of different sounds. I mean, we're talking way more consonants and vowels than usual. Even someone who studies language for a living would have trouble keeping up.
I'm just trying to imagine trying to say any of it. It'd be like the ultimate tongue twister challenge.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. But here's where things get interesting. So there was this article in, get this, a Russian tech magazine. And that's kind of what changed the course of Ithkuil's development.
Seriously, Russian tech people were into this super niche language.
Yeah. They were really interested in how it could be used for something called psychonetics. It's this idea that we can actually, improve our brains by using language in certain ways.
Whoa, psychonetics. Okay, now you're speaking my language. Anything that can make you think better, I'm there.
So basically, psychonetics is all about how we can, train our minds, our thinking, our memory, all that, by using different techniques. And because Ithkuil is so precise and packs so much into every word, people started wondering, hey, maybe if you learn this crazy language, maybe it could make you think faster, remember more.
So it's like brain training, but with language, like linguistic CrossFit for your neurons or something. I'm into it.
Yeah. But how did this Russian magazine thing change Ithkuil?
Well, it got Quijada thinking, and he actually ended up simplifying how Ithkuil sounded. This new version was called Ilash, and it had way fewer sounds, so it was a little easier on your tongue. But here's the really wild part. He also started messing around with a writing system that was visual. Hold on, visual. We're not talking about a normal alphabet, right?
Oh, yeah, this is way beyond ABCs.
Yeah.
So Ilash had this system, kind of like hieroglyphs, And these symbols could represent whole sentences. I mean, we're talking colors, shapes, even textures, all working together to show grammar and meaning. It's like art and language combined.
I don't even know. It's really cool, but I'm already getting a headache thinking about it. Yeah. This was still just leading up to the Ithkuil we're talking about now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Over time, Quijada kept tweaking and refining it, which led to Ithkuil III, and then finally what we call new Ithkuil, which is what we have now. It's a bit simpler, but believe me, it can still pack a ton of information into every sentence.
Which brings us back to those 96 cases. It's like linguistic landmines just waiting for you to trip up. So to really get this whole say everything at once thing, can we go over a few of those cases just to see how it all works?
Of course. Let's look at some of the categories that really change how we normally think about using language. Like configuration, for example. So in English, we have singular and plural, right? But Ithkuil takes it to a whole other level.
Right.
Configuration tells you the physical relationship between things, like, are they all the same? Are they a mix of different things? Are they arranged in a specific way? It's all built into the grammar.
So like if you're talking about a bunch of birds, you're not just saying birds, you're saying if they're all pigeons or maybe a mix of different kinds. Or even if they're flying in a certain formation.
You got it. And it gets even more detailed than that. Ithkuil has affiliation, which tells you the purpose of a group. Like, are those birds just hanging out, or are they doing something together, like looking for food or flying south for the winter? Again, it's all right there in the word.
Man, my brain is doing backflips trying to keep up. This is wild.
And we haven't even talked about perspective yet. This one dictates how we see the boundaries of a set. Is it one thing, multiple things, even just an idea? Ithkuil forces you to be way more specific than we ever are in normal conversation.
It's like, imagine looking at a forest, right? But instead of just seeing a bunch of trees, you know every single type of tree, how old they are, even how they interact with each other, all in perfect detail.
That's a great analogy. And that right there, that's the amazing thing about Ithkuil. It's both beautiful and incredibly challenging all at the same time.
So we've gone like full-on deep dive into this whole Ithkuil thing. It's super complex, super detailed, but let's be real, could we ever actually speak it? I mean, imagine trying to order coffee in this language. You'd need like a linguistics degree just to get the grammar right.
That's the big question, isn't it? And to be honest with you, even Quijada himself, the guy who created Ithkuil, he's even said that it's probably just too much for a normal person to really learn.
Wait, seriously, even the guy who invented it can't speak it fluently. That's kind of wild.
It's not really about being fluent. It's more like your brain would just explode trying to process everything. And that makes sense, right? I mean, think about it. He never meant for Ithkuil to be used for, like, small talk. It's more like this crazy experiment, to see just how far you could actually push language.
So like a concept car. It looks cool, it's got all the bells and whistles, but no one's driving it to work anytime soon.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Just because we can't all speak Ithkuil doesn't mean it's useless. It actually makes us think about some big questions.
Like what? Give me the good stuff.
Well, for starters, it makes you really think about language and how it affects the way we think. Like, imagine if we could use all of Ithkuil's crazy grammar naturally. If those 96 cases were just, like, normal to us, would it change how our brains work? Would we see the world totally differently?
Oh, it'd be like upgrading your brain to the newest version, right? Where do I sign up? Now, maybe there's like an intro course first.
Maybe. But think about this. Ithkuil could be huge for artificial intelligence. Imagine a computer program that could not only understand Ithkuil, but actually speak it. And I mean, speak it with that same level of detail.
Okay, that's both really cool and a little bit scary, if I'm being honest.
Right. It'd be like cracking a code. We could potentially communicate on a whole other level, something we never even thought possible.
So here we are, face to face with Ithkuil, this language that's like right on the edge of what's possible, and yet we can't even come close to understanding it, let alone actually speaking it.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? And maybe that's the beauty of it all. Even trying to create something like Ithkuil, something so impossibly complex, can lead to these unexpected discoveries and questions.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this. What if a computer actually did learn to speak Ithkuil? What would it tell us? About the universe? About itself? Till next time.